Wrestling fans, promoters, wrestlers, and anyone who enjoys pro wrestling now have something new to be excited about. The Wrestling Fans International Association, the WFIA, is back. WFIA is an association that exists to promote, grow, and support professional wrestling throughout the world. Membership is free. Your membership includes a free digital bi-monthly publication of the Wrestling Fan News newsletter, association updates, voting privileges, and much more. Please go to thewfia.org, that's THEWFIA.org, and become a member today.
Available on all streaming platforms. It's professional wrestling's greatest, largest, privately owned wrestling library. All the classic hits, flips, slams, and pins of yesteryear are on one place. It's Ultimate Classic Wrestling. Check out the Nature Boy Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan, Mr. USA Tony Atlas, Tito Santana, Rick Martel, a who's who of professional wrestling's greatest spotlight stars ever to grace the squared circle, all in one place. Grab the best seat in the house for memories and mayhem on Ultimate Classic Wrestling.
Hi, this is Bob Smith. You might remember me from my years at Pro Wrestling Illustrated magazine. Well, now I've started a brand new podcast called The Outdated Wrestling Hour. Yes, we're going to take a whimsical look back at the wrestling figures, stars, and trends from years gone by. We're talking 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and a whole lot more. There's going to be laughs, there's going to be fun, there's going to be action, you name it. Please tune in for The Outdated Wrestling Hour wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome, everybody, to the Pro Wrestle Zone here on WON Sports. This is Rick Del Santo. I'm joined by Harry Davila each and every week. Today, this is being recorded on Thursday evening, airs here on WON Sports Sunday afternoons. And we just found out about a very young, untimely passing of Wyndham Rotunda, a.k.a. Bray Wyatt, at the age of 36, having a heart attack from complications of COVID from earlier in the year. Wyndham Rotunda is the son of the legendary Mike Rotunda, a.k.a. Erwin R. Shyster, and the nephew of Barry Windham.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Your thoughts?
Kind of numb. Kind of just in my feelings. Today I came up to Meriden because there's a lot of stuff up this way over the weekend, and I figured it'd be easier to commute. And, you know, I decided I was going to spend the day with my sister and hang out with my family and stuff like that. And for the most part, the day has been pretty amazing up until maybe about 2 hours ago when we all got the news of Bray Wyatt's untimely passing. Bray Wyatt was 36. He's young. Very, very, very young. I myself am 37, and I kind of get stuck just kind of like wondering now, like, what's next? And you start wondering about like time and stuff like that. It's just a very, very, very shocking and very, very punch in the gut type loss here. Bray Wyatt was an incredible mind, creative, different, refreshing, arguably one of the best characters in the modern age as far as professional wrestling goes. Wyatt created something really, really cool around 2014 with the Wyatt family, and how that caught on, the Fireflies and all that stuff. And even when that kind of faded because of obviously the direction that WWE had put him in, where he was kind of like taking losses and kind of like lost his credibility, he went and revamped himself even into an even bigger character in The Fiend, and the things that The Fiend did that were so cool and so different from the norm from what we're used to. And that's all from the creative mind of Bray Wyatt. Very unfortunate. My condolences go out to his whole family, Bo. I'm drawing a blank from just thinking about the stuff. JoJo, his wife, and the kids. The kids were mere still babies, like 4 or 5. I want to say 5 years old, maybe at the most. Like, he just had a couple kids a couple of years ago, and like it's just a lot. It's just a lot, just crazy, crazy day.
Of course, he came in through the original form of NXT, or
Yes.
Florida Championship Wrestling, into the original form of NXT, which is more like a game show contestant type show before it became a brand. And Cody Rhodes was his WWE Pro, aka Coach, in which he used the name Husky Harris, and he came in as part of the Nexus at one point as well. I believe it was the version 2, correct, of the Nexus.
The second iteration. Yep.
From there he eventually struggled a little bit to get his footing until he went back down to the NXT when it became the brand, in which he became Bray Wyatt, which was more like a cult leader, aka which reminded me of Robert De Niro in Cape Fear, which was what was Danny Spivey's character in the 90s there?
Oh my God, you're putting me on the spot.
Waylon Mercy.
Waylon Mercy.
Which was very reminiscent of that. So, as like a cult leader type, somewhat of a psycho. Of course, he joined up with Brody Lee, aka Luke Harper, and Eric Rowan as the Wyatt family, and tore through WWE.
Ripped right through them.
And possibly some of the most creative portions of the era, that brand, WWE.
Yeah. They're I mean, I will say that their introduction into like the main roster stuff was kind of fumbled, but it seemed like they picked it up right after that. Not soon after that, you were adding Braun Strowman to the group, and it led to be a dominant foursome. They matched almost star power and the legitimacy of the Shield at the time.
Right.
Like Bray Wyatt was just an incredible talent. And up until recent reports, he was on the way back. They were already setting stuff up. I believe his next feud might have been Cody. And they were going to do I'm pretty sure they were going to do some crazy stuff with that. It just seems like we're getting hit back to back to back with like losses of incredible people. Because Bray Wyatt isn't the only one who unfortunately left us this week. We now go also touch base on yesterday's unfortunate news of Terry Funk passing away. And if you're a wrestling fan, I know there have been at least one point or another where you've heard a story about Terry Funk, a crazy old man from Texas who was just batshit crazy and would do pretty much anything in the sport of professional wrestling. 6 decades. 6
Yeah.
decades long. His career spanned, and this dude has fought the best of the best. From Ric Flair to Jack Briscoe to Cactus Jack to Shane Douglas to Raven to Tommy Dreamer to The Rock to Stone Cold Steve Austin to Edge. The guy has been in the ring with pretty much every damn legend in the Hall of Fame. Nothing bad can be ever said about Terry aside from the fact that he may have retired more times than he's been in the ring. But we all say that with a laughter and a grin, because for us, Terry Funk, as he said in that infamous promo, will be forever. Just very, 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 very sad. Very tough 2 days as far as professional wrestling goes.
Terry Funk, of course, made his debut in 1965.
Yeah.
Both his father and brother, Dory Funk Jr. and Dory Funk Sr. were both professional wrestlers. Dory Funk Jr. and Terry were both at separate times the NWA World Champion. Terry Funk, of course, was 2-time ECW champion very early on.
That is correct.
This was a guy that when he was around before he got into the hardcore style or very innovative style, he was a very, very good technician. He could out wrestle them. Same thing as Dory as well. There was nothing bad that could be said about Terry Funk in his career. He wrestled everywhere from Frontier Martial Arts Wrestling, what's FMW, Big Time Wrestling in Detroit, Georgia Championship Wrestling, Stampede. This guy has done it all in the professional wrestling world, and he's wrestled everywhere. And I mean, his retirement match in 1994? He wrestled Bret Hart, correct?
No, 97.
This was a.
Was it? No, are you talking about the one that was technically filmed for Beyond the Mat?
I'm trying to think if that's the right one or not. Yeah. I guess it wasn't an ECW show, but it was very heavy ECW influence.
I want to say it was 97.
Okay. I
want to say, I could, you know what? We're on the computer today, so let's do a little Googling.
I got this.
Oh, sorry, mister.
Oh, really? I got this. Let's see here.
1997 Terry Funk Wrestle Fest.
That's correct. There you go.
Come for me. Don't come for me. Don't come for me, Rick.
No. Not today. This is
not today
in professional wrestling. So I didn't realize it was that late for some reason, but it was Terry Funk and Bret Hart, Terry Funk's WrestleFest, which I absolutely loved that event. I used to have that on VHS back in the day. Terry Funk was an absolute legend in the world of professional wrestling.
The only reason I know that kind of like stat for a fact, because I've watched Beyond the Mat more than probably a lot of movies that, like normal movies like Batman, whatnot. And I will always remember, I can't remember his name, and it's going to bother me now that I can't remember it, but I always remember Terry asking his friend to come do something at the show. And he was like, I got to get in shape. And he just went on his trampoline and started doing jumping jacks with dumbbells in his hand, just doing like this. I can't remember his name, but
I do know. I'm trying to remember now myself. Terry Funk. Yeah, go ahead.
That's just that will forever be ingrained in my mind, just like how kind of silly that whole interaction was. Because Terry with his voice, oh, why don't you come and hang out with us? We'd love to have you. And then he'd like, but I'm not booked on the show. Like that whole interaction is literally like just still ingrained in my brain.
Yeah. I'm trying to look up the whole cast because I remember exactly who you're referring to, but
I want to say it starts with a D.
I'm trying to look here. Hang on. Because this is going to drive me nuts too. Because it was Dennis Stamp.
I was right.
Found it. Yep.
Start with it. Yeah.
Who in his own right was a great technical professional wrestler from the 60s and 70s into the 80s. So just thought I'd throw that out
there.
Yeah.
You know, but it's like so like my first memory of Terry Funk is around 1990 and street fight with Ric Flair. Yep. The I Quit match.
Right.
And it was something
which I just watched today, by the way. Yeah.
It was something different even for that time, because in the 90s, like early 1990, no one was doing like crazy table spots and stuff like that. And him and Rick were kind of went pretty nuts in that match. It was pretty strike heavy, pretty brawlish style. And I remember going, Terry Funk is a crazy motherfucker. You know, I'm for, obviously the M word is not what I'm using here, but like, you know, it's just crazy. And then, you know, fast forward to like 97, and you've heard stories about the great death match king that is Terry Funk, and him and Cactus Jack, and ECW comes along. Now I'm like 11 years old, and there's this guy who just beat up Ric Flair not too long ago. Now he's over here with these hardcore young guys, and he's kicking their ass. You know, like Terry Funk is a legend, man. Terry Funk has been, you said it earlier, you listed down like all these different promotions that Terry Funk has had his hand in. And Terry Funk has been literally everywhere, won a championship literally everywhere he went. You know, multiple time heavyweight champion, hardcore champion. I believe he may be a tag team champion. I can't really think. I'm almost positive.
Titles. I'm looking at this list right now.
Please rattle them off.
The list is endless. Let's just say this. In All Japan alone, I could list every title here, but this will take hours. He's won the he's on in Florida, Championship Wrestling from Florida. Let's go there. He's held the Florida title, Florida Tag Team title twice with Dory. Florida Television Championship, North American Tag Team Championship, Southern Heavyweight Championship twice, Florida Television Championship tournaments he won. Let's go to ECW World Heavyweight Championship twice, Television Championship once, Georgia Championship Wrestling. I mean, this guy held titles legitimately. Juggalo Championship Wrestling. How about that? NWA World Heavyweight Champion. This guy has held titles every single place he's gone.
U.S. champion, WCW Hall of Fame, which I even forgot that even existed. You know, Pro Wrestling Illustrated Feud of the Year, Wrestler of the Year, Most Inspirational Wrestler of the Year. Like, he has done it literally all. Squirrel Circle champion once, which doesn't shock me. You know, WWF Tag Team champion. See, I knew he won the tag titles. You know, like, this dude's literally done everything that you could possibly do in wrestling. You know, he's held the championship for every major promotion he's been a part of.
He also, don't forget, he had a legendary empty arena match with Jerry Lawler in the USWA, the Mid-South Coliseum, which I had just actually posted to my social media yesterday upon hearing about his passing.
You know, like,
legendary moments like that.
It's like, even like looking like at his stat sheets here and looking at like his like championships and awards and stuff like that. Like, he's even won trophies like overseas.
Yeah, in Japan, like, Japan, Tokyo
Match of the Year with Dory Funk, you know, popularity, Lifetime Achievement Awards. Like, you don't get these things by being a slouch or being like some chump, you know, like this is a Hall of Fame in every aspect of the word.
Yes. There's just so much, and don't forget, he was very influential because he decided he got into acting at a during the 1970s into the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look now, I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but I actually was listening to a podcast that I did, and I forgot all about this. In 1983, do you know that for Rocky 3, Sylvester Stallone had wanted, now Sylvester Stallone and Terry Funk were very good friends. Did you know that he wanted Terry Funk to play the role that Hulk Hogan played, Thunder Lips? However, Funk said, I don't think that would be a good idea, and recommended Hulk Hogan. And what did that do? You can basically say Terry Funk helped boost and change the world of professional wrestling because that shot Hulk Hogan into superstardom.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to be real. I don't see Terry Funk, this Texas cowboy, going, look at me, I'm Thunder Lips. I'm Thunder Lips. I don't see that. I see him being a more rugged, like, I'm gonna beat your ass, boy, type of wrestler.
Yeah. And well, he knew what he knew what was going to be good for that movie. And let's not forget, he had an infamous role in Over the Top. He had an infamous role in Roadhouse, and of course, Beyond the Mat, as you mentioned. And he also was in a film called Paradise Alley in 1978. That's how him and Sylvester Stallone became friends, which was a film on based on a professional wrestling with this was shortly after, I think, the first Rocky movie, if I'm not mistaken. So it was Terry Funk and Sylvester Stallone in that movie.
Wait, what was it called?
Paradise Alley.
Shocker. What a wrestling movie called Paradise Alley.
Yep. Yeah, he played Frankie the Thumper, and he was also the stunt coordinator for that movie. So I'm guessing he was teaching people how to wrestle for that.
Wasn't he in Ready to Rumble too?
I don't have that listed here. I'm looking at all the movies. Well, maybe not all, but I'm listening. It's listing the highlights here in this list that I'm looking at here. Of course, he did a number of television. He was in the Swamp Thing television series, Quantum Leap. Now, I guess you can say I marked out because I was a huge Quantum Leap fan at the time, and to see him and Scott Bakula in the ring together at the time. Let's see, he was in Thunder in Paradise, of course. That was the show that starred Hulk Hogan.
Yep.
And and then of course he also did a little bit of recording, a couple songs, Texas Bronco, The Great Texan, and Tougher Than Shoe Leather. So rest in peace to Terry Funk, an absolute legend, and he's going to be missed.
Yeah, it almost kind of like gives you perspective on a lot of things. Terry Funk, as much as it hurts to kind of say, that say he's gone and all that stuff, like he was at an age where it was almost like we knew it was coming eventually. Right. You just didn't want to believe it was coming sooner than it did.
Right.
Because, you never want your heroes to pass away.
No. And we're getting to that age where that's happening more and more common.
Mm-hmm.
As of late, we're at that age. I'm sorry to say. It's we're just getting older, and our heroes, our childhood heroes, are getting older. So
yeah, and like I think it really started hitting me. Like even when Eddie and Benoit passed, it didn't hit me Eddie's passing hit me harder now, like a little bit later in my life. But I think the one that kind of hit me and I was kind of just like, whoa, was Bobby Heenan. That one kind of like really caught me off guard. And not because I didn't know that he was going through whatever he was going through at the time with like his I wouldn't say he had like throat cancer or something.
Right.
But like he was one of those first guys that I like loved as far as like characters on TV go, just the way he was. I was always a fan of like his stable, the Heenan family. Like they just had a ridiculous amount of talent on that squad. You know, you name it, Rick Rude, Mr. Perfect, what are these two named? The Brainbusters, Andre the Giant, Haku, you just all-star cast, $1 Million Man City, Biasi, Ric Flair at one point. You know, and that one.
Did you say Mr. Perfect? Did you say Kurt Hennig? You did.
That was the first one I did.
Yeah. Which they worked. He was supposed to be retired from managing at that time.
Yep.
But he came out of retirement when Perfect came in. Then he came out of retirement again when Flair came in, and he just added something to Kurt Hennig.
You could put him. You could put him with anybody and add to your character. Look at a character like the Red Rooster. Even on the other side of it, like Red Rooster was technically a comedy gimmick, and people took him seriously because of his beef with one Bobby Heenan. Now, going back to like the years now, there've been a lot of passings of younger talent, and you know, talking about hitting people hard. A couple years ago, we lost Brody Lee, and that one, and that was, I think, what was it in the beginning of the pandemic and stuff like that happened. And like,
yes, I remember where I was. See, tonight I was at Big Y, the grocery store, today, when I found out about Bray Wyatt. The weird part about Brody Lee's passing is that was a Sunday evening that I found out. I believe I drove my kids to their home because me and their mother are separated. They're divorced. Drove them home. I was coming home, and literally I was entered Big Y, and that's when I got a text message about Brody Lee. So that's a very weird coincidence about the two deaths, Brody and Bray, in my particular situation here in life.
I'm gonna be honest. I want to say I was in my living room when I found out about Bray. Excuse me, I'm a little uncomfortable here. When I found out about Brody, and even that kind of just blew my mind. Like it's so many young guys have passed recently that you kind of just sit here and you're just like, oh my god, they're such babies. Like we talk about Trent Acid a couple, you know, what was it, 2000? Yeah, maybe 2010, maybe I think it was
somewhere around there. Yeah,
wow. You know, Chris Cash, who passed away in a motorcycle accident, and you know, just those are just like a couple that are coming off the top of my head. And these are young babies, young dudes out here, and it scares me sometimes because like I see some of the things happening around me, and just eye opening. It could, like that, in a heartbeat, just be gone.
And this is gonna be a rough one to bring up.
Yeah,
this is gonna be a memory. And as of today, this recording was also the anniversary of a 2-year anniversary of the passing of a very good friend, a very good man, good professional wrestler from our local area,
Big Jim
Anderson, as well, on this anniversary as well. So the other thing about that is I remember exactly where I was when I found that out. I was in the middle of recording an episode of this show with the Guardian of Chaos, Big Daddy, and Talking Tommy Saban. It was Tommy's first appearance on this show. And we're just blabbing. We're hyping up a Paradise Alley show that was coming up. Big Daddy's phone was blowing up, and he's like, I wonder what this is. And like he kept, denying it because it was like we were in the middle of recording. Then he got a text message, and he said he'd be back. He came back on, and he broke the news, and we just wrapped up the show right then and there. It was that was a heartbreaking. And I know that you, as a promoter for Blood, Sweat, and Tears Professional Wrestling, you have had the opportunity to work with Jim on numerous occasions before his passing, right up until you guys hosted his final match.
Sorry, I kind of just Again, a little numb.
Yeah. I get it.
Big Jim is a big teddy bear, man. Love that man so much, and I can't. I've said this story before. Like I don't want to sit here and pretend like we were the best of friends, because at the end of the day, he was a talent and he was a friend. But he wasn't. We weren't like super close. But he was one of the first men that, when I got into this business, that accepted me with wide open arms. I want to say he was maybe first to open arms.
That was
Now,
his
still,
story. That was him as a human being. He was
I
very
know.
welcoming to everybody.
And
And
it's great because you look at him from afar. You're coming in, don't know anything about some of the people that have, that you're gonna about to be like calling their stuff, and this big giant dude, pure like grunge rock, ripped stuff, all that, tattoos, you name it, and you think he's gonna be like this rugged, like, whatever, kid, get away from me, you're still new to this type of guy, and it was the complete opposite. And a story that I will always tell about just how awesome Big Jim was, specifically to me, is I had went to a Paradise Pro, my God, Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling show, and it was me and my son, and we went out there because we knew some of my friends were wrestling on the show, some of the people that wrestled for BST, and I kind of just wanted to, just check it out and have a good time. And there was a gentleman, this was like during the beginning of the COVID, so we got our masks and all that stuff, and there's a gentleman in between two open seats. So it's open seat, gentleman, open seat.
right.
And I had asked the guy if he could move over, and the gentleman kind of just like looked at me like I had four heads and just brushed me off. So I went to kind of like turn around and look around the vicinity, see if there was any open seats. And Jim just walks over, looks at the guy dead in the face and goes, "I need you to move over." He has two. And the guy looked at Jim, said nothing, moved, and me and Ezra got to sit right there. We were like right at the entranceway, first row. Later on in the show, Waves and Girls come out. They do the popper. Ezra's like right under the confetti. It was such a cool, like, little cool moment for him. But I'll always remember him coming to bat and kind of going, "You move them." And I'm like, "Thanks."
He was one of those guys that anytime he'd see you, he would, from across the room, he'd smile, he'd make his way across the room, put out his hand and shake your hand and make sure to say hello. We had a mutual love for punk rock music in our youth, and we had a lot of that kind of stuff in common. So that's how it went. You know what I mean? Like, we would always talk about bands, and he was in a punk rock band around the area. Him and I had a lot of mutual friends from the punk rock scene. Hardly any of our mutual friends were from the actual wrestling world. They're all the New Haven, Connecticut punk rock scene people. So that in itself was just crazy to me that he had a lot of mutual friends when I had met him. But he was always very friendly, always shook my hand, always made sure to say hello, and he would always hit me up. And honestly, I recorded a podcast with him. I reposted it today. And one of the things is that I remember recording that podcast with him. And then he had told Ryan Frost to get in touch with me about coming on the podcast as well, which I did. And then because they were a tag team, they were kind of tearing up the Northeastern United States for a couple months.
City Devils.
Yeah. And I got that shirt in my drawer as well. But so this was going to be, we were setting up a time for the both of them as a tag team to talk about their tag team together. And then we just had the news that he had passed. It was just a couple months after we had recorded that podcast.
I remember where I was. It was the night. I want to say it was the night or 2 nights after the BST show. I can't remember the exact. I don't want to say it was 2 nights. It may have been a night.
I think that was a Saturday or a Sunday.
I think we ran a Sunday. No. Did he pass on a Sunday or did he pass on a Monday? No, I think that was the show was Saturday. Something happened Sunday. We found out Monday.
Yes.
I remember it was my first day of work. It was my first day going back to work.
Okay.
So that Saturday we had our show, and he had a stellar match with Dustin Waller. Shocker. Somebody had a decent match with Dustin Waller. Dustin Waller being the great wrestler that he is.
Big match Dusty.
A big match Dusty. Yeah, exactly. And this was the unveiling of the brand new BST title. So kind of like Jim knew the significance of this match, and he knew he had to kind of like bring it. And we had a conversation earlier that day, just about him and his spot. And, he kind of was just like, I feel like my time is coming. Like kind of like almost prophetic. And he was just like, I think my time is coming. Like as far as like wrestling goes, like I don't know what I'm gonna do here after this championship match. Where do I go? And I kind of just looked at him. I was like, I don't know why you're even worried. You have nothing to worry about. We're not gonna like put you on the cards going forward. You're with us for, and I fully believe that we had talked about what we were gonna do with him next, even after that. And I just remember giving him a big hug and telling him that I loved him, and I left the arena that night. I think he stayed a little bit longer with Justin, or Lucas Chase, excuse me, and they kind of just finished wrapping up. And I think it was like 2 days later, I was driving to work, and I just read it. I forgot where I read it. And I got off the highway, and I made a phone call, asked a question, and they confirmed it. And I think I was like late to work because of that. Because I just stood there like kind of like just like, it's no way. There's no way. Just crazy how the world works. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's not only we've had a lot of passings this week in the world of professional wrestling. If I may speak a little bit about one, Honest Abe Jacobs.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Honest Abe was born April 18th, 1928, and he died on a Monday. The news did not circulate until Wednesday. He was born in New Zealand. He's one of the first men of the fellow New Zealander, excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I did this whole little write-up here on Abe Jacobs. So
by all means, go.
He was one of the first men to follow fellow New Zealander Pat O'Connor to the United States. Like O'Connor, Jacobs became a major star in the NWA during the golden age of professional wrestling. Now, Abe Jacobs was 95 years old. He was, at the time of his passing, the oldest known living professional wrestler at 95 years old. He's one of the most recognizable baby faces during that period. He was billed as the Jewish heavyweight champion.
Oh, okay.
He wrestled in a number of high-profile matches with many stars of the era, including Lou Thez, Gene Kiniski, Buddy Rogers, Dick Hutton, and, of course, Pat O'Connor. His match against O'Connor, which aired on Capital Wrestling's weekly television show, was the first time two New Zealanders wrestled for a championship on foreign soil. Jacobs was also established journeyman wrestler, touring Europe and Japan on several occasions, traveling around the world 4 times and wrestling over 8,000 matches in his 30-plus year career. He's known as a tag team specialist, winning the NWA Florida version of the World Tag Team Championship with Don Curtis, the NWA Los Angeles International TV Tag Team Championships with the legendary Haystacks Calhoun in the Western States Tag Team Championship with Pistol Pez Watley. And of course, let's see, he spent the final years living in the Carolinas, where he became a mainstay for Jim Crockett's Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling. During the 70s and early 80s, he was best remembered by the modern American wrestling fans as the undercard wrestler. He was also the first opponent for Ric Flair when he made his debut in Jim Crockett Promotions, a.k.a. the NWA Mid-Atlantic Wrestling.
That's a stat.
Yeah. He was also the creator of the Kiwi Roll. So if you guys are an amateur, he's an established amateur wrestler. He was inducted into the George Tragos Luthez Hall of Fame in 2008. He's also known as his native country in a professional wrestler. Jacobs was named one of the top 10 New Zealand-born professional wrestlers by Fight Times magazine, and it was featured on a special commemorative edition of the New Zealand $10 note. So Abe Jacobs. I've heard a lot about this guy from a mutual friend that we had, and an absolute legend. There was plenty of times, because I've heard so much about him, that I would go watch a lot of his footage, the black and white era into the 70s. And you want to talk about an amazing professional wrestler? Abe Jacobs was definitely one of them.
They say, I guess the rule is, rule of three.
Yeah.
So it's just, again, it's been a tough week as far as professional wrestling and people passing away. And then this on the anniversary of our friend passing away as well. It's just been a mind-numbing week. I'm kind of just checked out, and I'm kind of bummed, because I was like, going into tomorrow's got a pretty big day for us here in Connecticut. I kind of gotta find the energy to kind of like bring it tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's gonna be hard, but tomorrow's show is for one of our other friends who's going through a really rough time, and I don't know, honestly, kind of like just crazy. Crazy times.
Yes.
Crazy times. I wish I had a lot more to say in regards to a lot of the stuff, but it kind of just, as a family man, a father of two beautiful kids, it kind of puts a lot of things into kind of like perspective for me, as far as like what, taking care of myself and my health, and kind of like how I handle things, And not saying that he didn't do that stuff, because, nobody knows what actually happened and what led to him. He could have been easily just walking to the park and somebody just happened to cough in his direction.
Yeah.
It's as easy as that, But just gotta be more mindful, be more cautious.
Yeah.
But
we are going to cut the first part of this short tonight as we pay tribute to the men that have fallen this week, our brothers in the professional wrestling world, Terry Funk, Abe Jacobs, Bray Wyatt, and of course, the anniversary of our brother Jim Anderson. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Don't forget to check out our social media and tell the ones you love that you love them.
Love you all.
Available on all streaming platforms. It's professional wrestling's greatest, largest, privately owned wrestling library. All the classic hits, flips, slams, and pins of yesteryear are on one place. It's Ultimate Classic Wrestling. Check out the Nature Boy Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan, Mr. USA Tony Atlas, Tito Santana, Rick Martel, a who's who of professional wrestling's greatest spotlight stars ever to grace the squared circle, all in one place. Grab the best seat in the house for memories and mayhem on Ultimate Classic Wrestling.
Here in the forest, dark and deep, I offer you eternal sleep. I'm behind you. I am right behind you. Don't be scared. I just want to play a game with you. I've been watching you. I know what you've been doing. You can't hide from me. I'm always here. Please stay. Stay with me. If you don't come play with me, then we will kill you. Knock knock. It's there. You're a nightmare. Can you see me? Hello? Can you find me? Can you find me?